on a not so humorous, but still a humorous side, I realize I'm sharing the stage with 5 powerful men. And we are talking about ensuring that it's an inclusive growth. And so it's both a privilege for me, but also it also points out the starkness that somewhere women need to come forward. I just couldn't miss, saying this. Since morning we have been talking about connecting the unconnected. We are talking about ensuring that in this whole path of achieving our SDG goals, where there's a huge gap, the role of technology out here. But also we're talking a lot here about the role of collaboration. We have representation here from government, from the industry, from people who are actually working at the grassroots level. In the morning, I did share a pyramid where we were talking about the basics, where to achieve anything, we have to ensure that the basic needs of a human being are met. Let me start with you, Jainendra. Since you're working with Prevalent Foundation, you're working a lot on the grassroots level and the aspirational district. And I have the same question for Srihari also, because since both of you are working at the grassroots, in the communities, you with a focus on aspirational district, one, where are the struggles? What do you feel is the gap? And what do you feel is still now the role of technology? And what is the need? How can technology really change how these communities, aspirational district, rural areas can really change the whole game? Because we are talking about 68% of our country's population is living in the rural India. And how we can ensure by building their capacities to technology, no one is left behind.
Thank you, Nidhi, for this question. So in India, we have 112 aspirational districts, and Piramal Foundation has been involved with the aspirational districts since last 5 years. It started in 2018 with Prime Minister Modi's initiative. In these aspirational districts, while working, we found when you go to the ground, you see that there is widespread poverty. There are 36 flood-affected districts. There are 38 tribal majority districts. There are districts which are minority-heavy districts, like majority is minority. Then we have people who are on the border districts, jungle, around 32 districts where mainly there are forests. Now, with this widespread challenges and problems, we see that on the ground, around 100 million population of India live in these 112 districts. And they are actually bringing down the medium to the lower side. So if we work on this bottom 100 million, maybe there will be a lot of change will happen. Now coming to how to, convert or how to develop these aspirational districts, what we found that at the bottom level, you have to work on the panchayati Raj system. In these 112 aspirational districts, there are 37,000 panchayats. Overall in India, we have around 4,70,000 panchayats, but in 37,000 panchayats, when we go and visit the panchayat, we found that, as Nidhi was saying about women empowerment, there are around 46% sarpanches, panchayat heads are women, and 54% men. So women representation is there, but what kind of women representations? You all must have heard about panchayat, sarpanch patis, So there are women, but still they are not there. How to work with these panchayats? Now, if you go to a panchayat and you see what planning they do, you find that 80% of the panchayat planning is missing. What is happening? Untied funds which come from the government, they are utilized, and tied funds, how to use, people don't know. Now, let me explain from a point of view of a typical panchayat or a sarpanch. What happens? A typical sarpanch does not know how to plan. Ministry of Panchayati Raj has already localized the 17 SDGs into 9. They have made provisions for making a Gram Panchayat development plan, and that plan needs to be prepared by the panchayat, but 80% of the panchayat sarpanch and the panchayat committee doesn't know how to make the plan and how to build that into the system and then use the untied and tied funds. 34,000 crores of funds last year was not utilized in the panchayats. It went back to the government. Why? Because the process is not known. So from a typical panchayat point of view, if I speak, then what happens? There is a lot of, there is a lot of schemes of the government. So one is scheme related funds. Then there are non-scheme related funds coming from the CSR. There are plenty of funds. Till date, more than 65% of the funds of the CSRs is also going to the cities only and not reaching these aspirational districts. There is a divide, a lot of work needs to be done, that's being done. So what I am trying to say is that if a sarpanch, from the archetype of a sarpanch, has information about his own population, citizen data, that how many schemes, who all is eligible, and what role he can play, their technology comes in. So one, democratization of data as to what all can be done, who all is eligible, how a sarpanch can, contribute. So one, localization or, funds reaching or the government schemes reaching the downward last mile is one issue where technology can play a major role. Second is, one is funds, so knowledge about funds. Second is processes, how to utilize those funds. And the third part is governance. That is one part where government funds are coming. In addition, we need networks of people like NGOs. A lot of NGOs are here. NGOs can get together, make, identify problems and then make solutions from the problem. A particular panchayat may not know how to solve a particular problem, maybe of a livelihood, maybe of a flood, or maybe of children going out of school. But somewhere some panchayat has solved for it. So if there is a network of NGOs who have successfully solved a problem, information sharing can happen. Similarly, youth, lot of youth from these aspirational districts at these panchayats want to contribute, but there is no platform for from where they can contribute. So there are NGOs, there are sarpanches, there are youth, there are self-help groups, there are faith leaders, there are media houses, local media I'm talking about. Nowadays, with the social media, there are so many influencers. I know children from the villages who have got 70,000, 10 lakh, 12 lakh followers. So there is, and then all of them are also working on social issues. So there is a potential in making a network of all these individual people and then making a network of networks. There, technology can play a major part. So where solving of a problem does not reside with the government, but it resides with the citizen. That needs a lot of knowledge increase of the citizens, number one, where technology can play a role. Forming of network, individual networks, technology can play a role, and also forming network of networks coming together to solve local problems for government schemes and also unlocking the agencies of the citizen. So unlocking of other agencies, when I say, that means every citizen gets capable of one, accessing the schemes that are available to him and also participating in the development. What needs to be done in a particular panchayat, only the people of the panchayat know, and they should have a say in what is going to happen in planning and in solving the problems in that district. So therefore, what we have done as Piramal Foundation, we have three arms. One is the Aspirational Bharat Collaborative, one is the Digital Bharat Collaborative, and there is one Piramal School of Leadership. All three are working together, one, to increase the knowledge of the people, to make public goods where at the bottom level, keeping the sarpanch as a system, at the center, can have some technology with which he can make good plans, he can do good governance, and also people from that panchayat, NGOs, people with good knowledge, government officers, retired officials, good Samaritans can join hands together, make a network, and then use that technology in order to unlock the agency of the citizens. That is where technology can play a role. We are developing a prototype for that, and we are collaborating with many technical giants, and we are planning in 5,000 panchayats, and in a year or so, we will have something, a public good, where we would like to do something, and then with open arms, we will invite suggestions, and we want collaboration from every NGO available across these aspirational districts to help us develop it better and participate in being part of those networks and also of networks of the networks. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you know what you highlighted, the role of panchayat out here in becoming, I think somewhere to access that data, they obviously need to be digitally skilled and you know, knowledgeable about that. That takes me to you, you know, in continuation to this whole thing, Srihari, if you can highlight what is that you are doing in terms of technology to ensure that, you know, when you are working at the community, technology becomes an enabler.
Thank you, Nidhi. So I come from Pradhan, and Pradhan is a national level non for profit, mostly invested in livelihoods, gender, climate action, and wash. So and we are working almost in 122 districts, and out of that, some 50 are aspirational. Okay. So sir was speaking of at the work at the panchayat level. I'll just go a bit down to the individual level. Maybe directly we are working with women, so at the women level, what is happening? So let us try to understand by example. So in all these aspirational districts, we have like some 85% small and marginal farmers. And when we say small and marginal farmers, they have very meager amount of land. And many of these small and marginal farmers, they do not have access to any kind of technologies for doing their livelihood. Say for agriculture. For agriculture, you need, say for example, inputs, knowledge for advanced technologies, or credit, or marketing information, all those kind of things. So if you see, this is not available at the cutting edge. This kind of information, because information is power, and this information is not available with the farmer at the ground. So here this technology has a major role to play. So now if you come to Pradhan, what it is doing, so as Pradhan is working with lots of farmers, Pradhan is promoting this women's farmer producer organization. Okay. Now this farmer producer organization have the role to provide all these kind of services I was speaking of, whether it is information about the input or providing the input, information regarding credit, linking them to credit institutions, or information about the weather, or information about the market, all those kind of things. So right now, these FPOs, so at technology point, so different kind of apps, the softwares, ERP systems, those are being developed, which actually is working at three level. At the FPO level, where they are aggregating, where there is information regarding all service providers, all farmers, shareholders, and all kind of things. There is a producer group level at the village who can also access all this information and demand for information. If that producer group wants some kind of training on, say for example, regenerative farming, so with that app they can just put that request, and that can be circulated or broadcasted to all the farmers, and all farmers can access that particular information or particular training module or particular technology. And also there is different kind of technology like the IVRS system and all those, where timely information is being provided. Like say for example, in case of goat or some animal, there is a vaccination due, where people are not able to remember the particular date where the vaccination should be done, or there is a they have to ask for this service, but reminder is going saying for your goats this vaccination is due on next Saturday, so they get alerted. Okay, and accordingly they stay home, and the service provider goes and give that vaccination service to that particular family or the cluster of family. So at the cutting edge, there is lots of such requirements. Okay, hundreds of requirements. If you start counting, there would be hundreds of requirements, and we are trying to with the help of different tech partners to simplify, first identifying the needs, what are these needs, and then come up with some technology related solutions, and then employing those solutions at the grassroots, which actually increase your efficiency in delivery, as well as it reaches the this all the information reaches to the community. So it could be in say farming, it could be animal husbandry. Also he was speaking of this GPDP, Gram Panchayat Development Plan. So right now, if you see earlier, all the plans were manual. Okay. And hundreds of plans, everywhere plans were made. So lots of effort and resources gone. And if you ask for a plan that was made 2 years back, nobody has that copy. Now also what we have done is like doing this plan in the using the technology ArcGIS, GIS, so that there is a plan available if somebody wants to come, because the village is a very independent area. Anyone can come and wants to see the plan and accordingly act. So if that is available with them, so people can work on that plan rather than reinventing the wheel and doing the planning all over
Sri,
again.
I completely agree. It cannot be about reinventing the wheel, and it's great to see how you are actually using technology to make sure that everything that you do at the grassroots is well monitored, right? Koshy, what you've done with ONDC is absolutely revolutionary. You have changed the face of e-commerce, but any such network is also about ensuring that people at the last mile in the rural areas are digitally literate and have access to it. And our data says that, of course, in this whole thing, women are left behind. I think, if I'm not mistaken, around 27% women only have smartphones. How are you, what's your plan, what's your vision to ensure that in this whole thing of accelerating technology, the women are not left behind, and how we can ensure that this can go towards making them a part of this overall revolution?
Thank you. So let me just try to quickly explain to you what ONDC is attempting to do in respect to making digital commerce more broader. As of now, while we are all heavy users of digital commerce, the extent of penetration in the buyer side, it's only 7-8%, seller side maybe 1 or 2%. This is supposed to be an inclusive agenda. Big and the small will be there. Big don't need any help, so they'll come by themselves. And whether in the seller side or the buyer side, seller side, whether it is Unilevers of the world or Google of the world, or the buyer side, people like sitting here. But now let's see what is the kind of things focus we are giving to the enterprises coming from grassroots level. So first let me just do the seller side, then I'll explain briefly on the buyer side too. So what we are doing is, we are working with different agencies to help merchants and sellers from grassroots to be visible in the ONDC network. For example, as you know that we just started only recently. If I just give you some of the example, where we have started, and we believe that they are all catalytic in nature and which will explode. Let's look at starting from south, like Kerala, where I come from. There's a self-help group called Kudumbashri. So now they are completely visible, all their products, and you can buy it from here. Similarly, we worked with Mandeshi Foundation. Helping them, they are now trying to get the whole team to come together. SIDBI, we worked with SIDBI. They are working on 4 clusters of small locations where they are trying to help what we call a digital enablement agencies to help the local sellers to have good catalogs, good processes, and come. We are also working with some of the philanthropy capital. I was very happy to hear what Piramal is doing, and just after this, I'm hoping that he will come and connect with me to see how we can marry the initiative together, because such foundations have a humongous role to play, because you need hand-holding. But the good thing is, here you're not trying to maximize interest of some few business enterprises. It is about empowering them to be a part of this larger network, from 2% to 20% if we can broad base. For example, we worked with and we need cooperation from people like you to buy from them. I'm happy that around 3,000 FPOs are already selling, and some, I saw one small FPO, one farmer. In the last couple of months, he managed peanuts worth about few lakhs of rupees, because he made himself visible and he had an offer, ginger or haldi and those kind of things, which is all encouraging. Khurja cluster, they just brought all their potteries now. You should start buying all your gift only from there. Nasscom should only buy from there. and the very interesting, so now let me just take a quick jump onto the buyer side too. Is that, when we help we were trying to identify small clusters as pilots. From there it can expand. One of the things that we tried was, in Kanchipuram, because finally when we bring it out, we want people like you to buy. So we wanted to see what other kind of product we could make it available. So a small cluster of the weavers came on board, which is good. They made quite a few lakhs of sales, and SIDBI gave a very solid support of giving 10,000 rupees to every employee to go and buy only goods from such kind of buyers who have been onboarded by SIDBI with the support, by some such kind of sellers, small sellers. But what is more interesting, while these are all our clusters, is that today, since the started last few months, in that small, Kanchipuram, it's a small village, a little more than a village. All of them are not buying Kanchipuram sarees. That's for people like you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
But the good thing
my
that
sari collection.
But the good thing is, today, in the last few months, since they started acting, every day there is some kind of transaction, about 500 to 600 transactions, buys stuff from that village. So they're getting used to the idea of being digital, participating in digital. So that's why there's a lot of, so if you enable them, today if you look at, while we say there is a lot of action in e-commerce, but it's all for people of the privileged society. If you but help them to make it relevant, that's why we have some buying applications coming and say, I'm going to do assisted commerce. Like our old PCOs, where they can give an assisted commerce to sell, to buy, so they have visibility for goods, otherwise nobody will take to them. Or they can also help them to sell and make it one. So it is going to be a sort of collective effort, continuous. It won't happen overnight. A transformation of this variety will not happen overnight. But what we are sure, and the kind of traction we are getting from variety and ministries, developmental institutions like SIDBI, NABARD, and the philanthropy capital, all of them. How now what we bring is a rallying point. And my friend here is trying to make sure that these guys are all able to talk at the grassroots level in the language that is possible. So if I just can finish saying that my ambition is that in a couple of years' time, every product or service that is catalogable, that means it can be relevant for somebody, will be available on this network. And different buying application will come and help their kind of buyers to buy what is relevant. And we are also trying to bring a lot of complementary stuff. For example, we just started the financial products there. Just giving an example, let's say that one small potter is trying to sell from somewhere, and let's say it got lost or it got broken on the way. If it's a big platform like, let's say, Flipkart or Amazon, he can just pay back. It doesn't make too much of an impact. But for that guy, it's going to go a big impact. It's not that he cannot shamelessly say, let the buyer be buyer. Because all the small vendors whom I'm dealing with are exceedingly proud of their name. Because they know if they screw up their name, it's bad for them. Then, can we give them a sachetized insurance? Can we encourage them so that for product that I sell for 500 rupees, we have an insurance of, let's say, 2 rupees, which will make sure this is taken. Can we encourage them that it go into a small saving? So what we are covering is a comprehensive linkages of all these things together. And I'm sure that SHGs and philanthropy capitals and ministry, etc., have a long play to play. And I will only exhort all of you to participate. Of course, your foundation is the one who's going to pull all the tech guys to give smart solution for this class. They don't need exceeding sophistication. They need convenient, user-friendly, relevant solutions, which is very, very intuitive.
Yeah. So talking about smart solutions also needs what you also mentioned to ensure that in a country like India, which has more than 70 languages, language is not a barrier. So Amitabh, the initiatives that you're taking, would you like to share how technology can actually reduce those barriers, break those barriers, and people can talk the language that the world is talking and not the language in our head?
Yeah, just I'll take a few minutes to say what we are doing. As a mission, what we are chartered to do is to ensure that the computer is able to recognize the voice in all 22 languages when you speak. So that is speech to text is one of the items which is important, and that's what we are doing. Then we are also doing, ensuring that computer should be able to speak out the 22 languages if it is encoded in text. So that is text-to-speech service. The third one is text-to-text, which is basically if you have language text in 22 languages, it will get bidirectionally translated to other languages. And then we are also doing the optical character recognition, which is that if you have a printed text or a scenic text or a handwritten text, it can be read through as a text and then processed. So that's a plethora of service which we are trying to do. Of course, the journey has not been, easy, because out of the 22 languages, 6 or 7 have very little digital presence. About 7 or 8 have a reasonable digital presence. And since we were looking at artificial intelligence models to be trained, we needed the digital data, or parallel corpus as they call it, to be used for this model training. So it has been a difficult journey, and we have spent time and money to actually collect digital data on the languages which are low resource language as far as digital presence is concerned. And about 200 of our translators work on the field to collect this data and digitize the data. Now that's the part of what tech is giving. Now since the system is based on AI, you always the part of the game is that as you use as much as you can, and the system would improve over a period of time. So the opportunities of improvement is quite immense. What it brings is a very transformative journey for the last mile. If you see that if I'm able to convert speech to text and text to text and text to speech, I'm in a position to actually make the computers or machine works by voice, right? And if you do that, you are bridging the language divide, you're bridging the digital divide, and you're also bridging the literacy divide. So people on the last mile can actually use voice in their own mother tongue. Voice is one part of it, but the mother tongue is other part of it. If we are able to cater to 22 languages, then they would be able to get things done on their own in those 22 languages. And our job, where we have reached on 12 languages as far as voice is concerned, and text to text we do 22 languages. So 12 languages, if you have, say for example, Telugu at the village in, Telangana or Andhra Pradesh, you would be in a position to actually get many things done in Telugu. So what is our aim actually when we are trying to connect the unconnected, or trying to see the people who are on the last mile? We launched a PM Kisan chatbot, right? Prime Minister releases a tranche of money thrice in a year, which is actually directly transferred to the PM farmer's bank account. Now, there are chances that out of the 9 crore beneficiaries which are there is 1% of the people who may not get the money on time or when it is transferred. Now, 1% is approximately what? About 9 lakh people. Quite a huge number, although the percentage is quite low. With the chat, what the chatbot does is that it asks you to, select the language, and through a voice you can say that ki bhugtan nahi mila, and it will authenticate you. And once it authenticates you over voice again, it will actually allow you, it will tell you that आपका बैंक अकाउंट जो है वो linked नहीं है, तो इस आधार से लिंक नहीं है, या आपका भूमि पंजीकरण ठीक से नहीं हुआ, any of the reasons which can be there, and he would get the information which otherwise he would have invested about 2 or 3 days to get into the system. So that's a big inclusivity which we are bringing. This actually gets expanded in different states in different form. Some people are giving this as an information. UP, for example, had parallelly launched a chatbot which is basically saying कि अभी बुआई का क्या समय है, आज बारिश कितने दिनों में आएगी. The information piece of it. So you have information, you have grievance redressal on their own language without you having digital or literacy thing, and then you are getting into the transaction, right? So our aim is that we would be allowing people to do the transaction in their mother tongue. So imagine situations where I have a legal problem, I have a chatbot, and I just ask, what should I do if my passport is lost? And the chatbot responds that go to the nearest police station and lodge a police complaint, and this is your nearest police station. Now, I'm just giving a trivial example so that we are able to understand, but at the rural place, or for women, for example, I am suffering from domestic violence. What should I do? and Pat gives the response that these are your possible things which you can do now. So if these are, because we are not encountering these legal problems on a daily basis and we are not masters at it. And at any point of time we get into these problems, we are actually dependent upon a third person whom we generally are not able to trust because of the fact that there is a deficit there in terms of whether I will be given a right advice or not. So going through this, imagine a situation if you are able to lodge, a person who is aggrieved is able to lodge FIR by voice. Today it is basically, you can just be, you may not be given a chance to even lodge a FIR. So these are the inclusivity ideas which we are coming up. And the thing would be that with the, social organizations and with Nasscom Foundation and the people who are developing tech for them, it is, if they use this technology to develop solutions and reimagine the user journey, as well as reimagine the way they are working using these technologies, we perhaps will be able to benefit a lot of people. Right? So at all points in time, we would be pretty interested to talk to these people and work upon it.
Thanks, Amitabh. And I think we have many players out here who can actually use this facility. Nachiket, I know you've been waiting for a while now, but I think any conversation which one needs to have with a corporate has to wait, because it's all about, the kind of resources and the influence that you can bring to such initiatives. We work very closely with you, Nachiket, and what we have seen is that there's a role you are playing to ensure that the talent from the marginalized areas, rural areas, are a part of the growth story, and you're ensuring that the unconnected are getting connected. And also, I will want you to touch upon the whole thing about, we all talk about collaboration, and today we are saying it's all about coming together. If you could also touch upon, is the whole thing about collaboration overrated?
Thanks, and okay. Hello? Yeah, okay, you're all good. So for those of you who don't know DXC Technology, we're a technology services provider, pretty large, about 44,000 people in India, and about 100,000 globally. And for us, therefore, people are our assets, and skills are absolutely core to our success, right? So, for us, we think about skills all the time. Second is in an industry, there has to be a word called innovation, right? Everybody recognizes that. But innovation, we've recognized, only takes you so far. What's even more impactful is co-innovation, where you've got the client, you've got an ecosystem partner, a technology partner like a Microsoft or an Amazon or a Google or somebody else, and you've got a company like DXC coming together to actually solve a business problem. So collaboration, outside of what we're doing here in terms of inclusion and skill building, is absolutely vital, because the power of three is obviously more than 3 times the power of just an individual entity. And it's the same thing, in terms of what we're doing with Nasscom. I think it is the power of three. It's the power of the corporate, like DXC. It's all the infrastructure that's being made available by the government, and we've just heard so many examples of that, whether it's the India Stack, whether it's all the benefits programs, whether it's all the sort of activities that the government is doing to make sure that everybody in the country actually has access to basic services, and the NGO partners, many of who are in the room, including the Nasscom Foundation, right? And so for us, the skilling happens at 3 levels in terms of inclusion. I mean, the first one, and it's a very core one to us, is to actually bridge the gap between education, and we hire a lot of engineers with degrees, and employability. Because even though you might have a degree, you might not necessarily know how to use that in the real world. And so whether we like it or not, and that's the sad part of it, because you actually spend 4 years of your life studying for something, and then you have to spend about 8 to 12 weeks in any corporate, at least in the technology service industry, actually figuring out how to use what you've learned in the real world. But that's a big part of our contribution, right? If you look at the lakhs of engineers who've gone through the IT services industry, all the firms, not just us, has actually invested significantly in bridging the gap between education and employability, right? The second one is, again, through partners that we that we have is really in terms of making sure that, people have access to education. So we've got a lot of scholarship programs that allow people who would not have otherwise afforded education, though they were quite capable, to be able to continue in education, to be able to access, things like laptops, computers, etc., which for an ordinary person in India is sometimes just out of their budget range. And then the last thing, and I think it's a very interesting connection as well, and also a true example of collaboration, is when you look at the aspirational districts, which we work very closely with you on. I mean, if we can make all the government sort of, largesse available in the right way to a family, the chances of a child actually being able to get a step up, even though, the benefits may not directly be related to education or otherwise, but at least if the parents are accessing it, they're not hungry, they are able to access government schemes, maybe the chance of a child actually being able to be part of society is that much more, right? But again, I can't emphasize enough, it's not just the corporate. It is actually a triumvirate of the corporate, the government, and this ecosystem that we are a part of that makes it all possible.
I agree, Nachiket, and I think it's a very proud moment for us to share that our last couple of years of partnership with DXC, in our aspirational district program, we have impacted more than 9 lakh lives, and I think that's been that's a joint partnership, of course, with the government and DXC put together. I can hear the beep out here, but what I'll do is this: if in 15 to 20 seconds, if each one of you can answer one question for me. Since we are talking about SDG 2030, if we were in 2030 and each one of you had to give your 7-year younger self one advice, what would it be? Why don't we start with you? And let's make it very quick, so that, that one advice.
Yeah, would be to, universalization of education to the grassroots level. And that is possible if each one of us takes responsibility. There are enough educated people. If they teach 10, this problem of education will go away. Thank you.
Yeah, we need to take the responsibility. Yes.
No, I could agree more, right? Because, you don't give a person a fish, you teach them how to fish, right? And I think educating at the grassroots levels is very, very important. And, supporting that initiative in whatever way is going to be key for us to make sure 2030 is achieved.
Yeah, means at the end of the day, it comes down to education, knowledge, which is there at the last mile. And obviously, if we do it in the mother tongue, it will be faster and easier. So yes, education and knowledge is what we would need to impart in the best possible way we can.
Commerce drives economy, and what we attempt to do is to break the digital divide, make it possible for everybody to be participating and be inclusive.
I think for every problem that exists at the grassroots, there is a digital solution to it. So while acting upon those problems, we have to wear that hat of how that solution can be found and how efficiency and effectiveness in the given solution can be brought about.
Yeah.
So if we can think on that, then we can save lots of resources and time.
Thank you. So breaking the digital divide with technology to ensure that there are no further barriers. Thank you, everyone. It was lovely talking to all of you. And I think it's a great panel to have implementers, government, and the industry, and an organization like us, which is more like a catalyst, to come together. Time for us to make commitments and collaborations to move forward. Thank you so much, everyone.